Indie 1023 with another at home session today, welcoming Mark Bowen from IDLES, who just released their third studio album, Ultra Mono, one that I've seen on quite a few best of year end lists. Mark, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So, Ultra Mono at its core kind of feels like a collection of songs about action, kind of written on the heels of the 2018 release, Joy as an Act of Resistance, recorded in 2019, but it kind of seems like it was almost fated to be released here in 2020. So, as the year went on before the September release, how are you guys feeling about putting out this album?
Very bizarre. It was really strange how prescient the album had become. Like a lot of the topics that were covered kind of got hugely kind of exaggerated and really came to the fore and became almost everything that people were talking about. It was very, very strange. Like even the video to War was made before COVID, and it's follows people's hands and the damage they can do with their hands, and it's just very, very bizarre. And they're touching things that now people haven't touched for ages, railings and all sorts of stuff. It was very, very strange. But even other than that, kind of the topics of conversation surrounding kind of isolation and the need for community and unity and stuff like that. It was um I guess those kind of things are bubbling under the surface anyway, and now we have actual enforced isolation, and the inequality that's going on is the divide is so apparent. It's not, COVID is not, as people claim, as a great leveler, because it's affecting people of lower classes and people of minorities a lot more than it is the other side. So it's I guess it's an album that kind of shows that divide, that ultra mono-ness, I guess.
It is interesting because it was kind of written back in 2018. Were there any specific events that led you guys to inspired you guys to write any of these songs then, even though it does seem like it could be written this summer?
Um, I guess a lot of it's around the feeling that you get around a band as it's coming up, and as you're getting more and more kind of known. um, and it's kind, a lot of it is a response to criticism, both positive and negative. I think Joe took a lot of the negative criticism to heart, just because it questioned his intentions, and he's not one to have his intentions questioned. Like, you can question a lot about Joe. He's open to competition, and he's open to people having different views, um, especially to him. But he's not open to anyone questioning his intentions behind anything. So I guess a lot of it was is dealing with that, and then it's kind of like our role as a band. Like, we write music that's very kind of the now and specific to how we're feeling in a moment, but also kind of noticing the world around us and kind of trying to explain it in a 3 minute rock song, and explaining that in our with our instruments and stuff like that. And I think that we noticed a lot of kind of feelings of the divide, and even on the album previous to this, Joy as an Act of Resistance. I guess Joy as an Act of Resistance was really about opening up conversations, and saying, listening is the greatest tool of free speech, and that's what Joy as an Act of Resistance was. And I think that Ultra Mono really was, okay, now we've opened up the conversation and everyone is listening. Here's what we have to say, at least. So that's where the ideas for the songs kind of came about, along that path.
One of our favorites here at Indie, and certainly what seems to kind of be the standout single, is Model Village. I really like that it's pointing a spotlight onto like this kind of perfect suburban theme, but kind of just like these icky kind of vibes coming from it. So tell me about writing Model Village and kind of having that one be the standout single for you guys for off of this new album.
Um, kind of hard to say, really. Like, I mean, a lot of the album um was written quite quickly before it was recorded last year. So like Model Village, the instrumentation was almost written by accident. Like at one of our gigs, I kind of threw my guitar on the ground and went into the crowd as I normally do at our shows. And it was taking a while for me to get back. So Joe picked it up and started playing the did it, the riff. And then the song kind of came out of that. And then I don't know, the kind of the context of that song, that's kind of about Joe's relationship with those things, and like he grew up in Exeter, and the it's about the small-minded mentality that kind of comes from being in small mind. But then I guess it kind of transcends a lot of things to me. Like to me, a lot of that is like it deals with a lot of topics of Brexit and the small-minded nature of the concept of nationality, and like not being open to other ideas or concepts. And then to me, that song really is also about like the internet and like um the dangerous mentality that comes up with being in an echo chamber and being surrounded by people that by and large agree with you, and then you create these mobs, and then there becomes mob mentality. People all pile on top of people online and give them grief, and because of the anonymity that the internet affords you, um it means that people can be a lot nastier whenever they're in that mob. And that the dangerous mentality that's created out of that, but the left are probably more guilty of it than the right, but as guilty, I should say. They're definitely not more guilty. The right are pretty terrible at it too. But like, it's just dangerous. It's dangerous to be in an echo chamber and in a small town that thinks about things in one way and not open to another way. And I guess that's what that song addresses.
Well, and I do like all of the political messages within this one. They're very overt, very obvious, but even something like Anxiety seems to be a hyper relatable song this year. Just all of these different kind of tense feelings that have been here in 2020. So, talk about writing songs that kind of deal with those the internal feelings, I guess, also with all of these things happening and that were happening before.
Yeah, again, it's like it's dealing with the internet and social media. Like the way that we consume the world around us is constantly having things thrown at us, and one good way of getting us to click on a button is through our fears and anxieties. And the song was really about dealing with the anxieties that you feel day to day, your social circle, and the anxieties that kind of come up with that, and people presenting themselves online, and then reading the news and getting all this kind of information all kind of thrown at you, and kind of like the fear that is created through media. And I think the song was trying to do that. And we wrote this song that progressively got faster and faster, and the gaps between the loud bursts of music got shorter. And we just wanted to try and cultivate the sense of anxiety that kind of grows within us, spending that happens as you spend 20 minutes online, 30 minutes online. It then builds up, and you're like, oh my God, I need a break from that. So yeah, that's kind of where that song came from.
So a lot of these songs are almost mantra like, and I think that's kind of a thing given rock and roll music anyway. A lot of repetitiveness, easy to sing along with. But I feel like with you guys and with your fans, that's kind of a thing where it's like we're going to be singing this all together. So tell me about the benefit of writing a song that kind of feels like a mantra. Does that help you guys on stage? Do
Yes.
you think that helps your fans and feel better?
Yeah, it's like the mantras that we have are like are ones that we need. Like they're things that we need to remind ourselves of, and especially Joe. Like Joe is prone to self-loathing and problems around that. That's why he love yourself on television and things like that. A lot of people think that he's preaching, but he's not. He's having to remind himself. And I think a lot of our mantras are a reminder to the people that we are and the people that we wish to be. But they're also of shared experience. And I think that that's one of the big things between us and our fans, is that like um it's a reminder that a lot of these things that you can, when you're living in it, anxiety, a perfect example, um you can kind of feel like you're the only person that ever felt that way. And um it's really comforting to know that other people have felt that way. um, and it's really cathartic to share your experience of it as well. So that's what we look to serve through our songs, because we're serving it for ourselves. It's helping us being able to um, share those mantras and share those experiences.
Uh, Also, there are a ton of special guests on this album. Jenny Beth of Savages, Warren Ellis, and even Jamie Cullum. For those who don't know, he's like a jazz pop artist. Mostly as backing contributors, though, and certainly not like in your face on the credits or anything like that. How did you guys choose collaborators for this album? First off.
A lot of them were by accident. It was, one of the big things about this ultra mono concept, and we really like the concept and the idea behind an album to subsume its way across the breadth of the album, sonically, our approach, everything like that. But the one of the things that is essential to IDLES, and is very much a part of IDLES, is a sense of community that we cultivate between ourselves and our fans, and the music kind of industry, or the musical community at large. And it only felt right to kind of have that on the album. So like, lots of things are by accident. So Warren Ellis came to visit us in the studio, and we asked him to just say hey on grounds. He literally just goes hey, and that's it. And Jenny Beth was by accident. We had a song that I mean, we wanted to have a female voice in that song for sure, but like and we wanted to sing a song in French because we recorded the album in France. And Joe asked if "Ne touche pas moi" meant "don't touch me," and I think someone in the studio must have been afraid of him or something like that, because they said yes. And it turns out it's not, it's "Ne me touche pas." And he was telling Jenny Beth we were recording a television show with her, and she was like, no, it's the other way around. But we were like, should we change it? And she said, no, don't change it. So we thought if anyone was going to bastardize the French tongue, it should be Jenny. So we got her to do it. And then everything else was all just by accident. We'd met Jamie Cullum at an award show in the middle of recording the album, and he's just got this. Everyone that's on this album shares an enthusiasm and a lack of deference to what it means to be like cool or trendy, or the processes, or roots, I guess, to rock and roll or success or any of that crap that doesn't actually exist. And so Jamie Cullum exemplifies that perfectly. And we needed a chilled section on the album because it was feeling very full on. So we have him do this nice lilting, easygoing piano piece. And I kind of like the dichotomy of having him and David Yao, who, like, they shouldn't be on the same page in the same room, let alone the same song, but it worked perfectly. So
Yeah, I went back and listened to that one. I was like, oh my god, that is Jamie Cullum. All right, so I love this idea of the community here. And as I've mentioned, this album is in a lot of best of year end lists. So congratulations on that. But I got to know, what have been some of your top releases this year that you've been listening to?
oh, these questions always put me on the spot. There is a Norwegian electronic, I want to say, artist called Vivian Christ, or Vivian Christ, I'm not too sure. And her, like, it's just really cool, like really fun. It's like, it's got this real like dark, I mean, I imagine it's influenced by other Norwegian music like black metal and stuff like that, but it's got this real dark edge to it. And it leans on a lot of stuff I've heard before, but it sounds new in a cool way. So I would check that out. Think her album is called Cross Modulation. I'm not too sure I'd have to check. Let me have a look. Sorry, I'm fairly sure it's called cross modulation. And I've also enjoyed. There's an Irish artist called Sinead O'Brien, who oh my god, I can't remember. I'm so bad at remembering stuff. I can't remember the name of her album, but she kind of does this like spoken word poetry over really cool post punk music. So she's really worth checking out. What else have I been? I'm gonna have to look on my music. So
I know these questions always put you on the spot, and you're like,
oh, it's just
I've
like
never
what?
listened to music. I don't know.
I'm listening to a lot of AC/DC, but is that new? I mean, they did release an album.
Have you listened to their new album?
I haven't. I haven't actually.
I haven't yet either, but
No, I mean, I
I heard
should.
it,
I've
it sounds
literally
really
been listening to a lot of it, so maybe I should go check that out. What else have I been listening to? I've been listening to the Floating Points album. I think that came out last year, but it's really good. And yeah, I mean, three's good enough, isn't it?
Three's good. Three's perfect.
Yeah.
And how have you been spending your time in quarantine? Have you guys been like writing and still like talking with each other about making new music, or just kind of, all right, we just put out this album. We're gonna chill for a minute.
No, we can't rest. So we made a conscious effort. We were like, well, what? Because we were supposed to be touring like crazy. Like should have done well over 150 shows this year. So we decided, what can we still do? What do we have control over? And we can write and record. So we're working on new stuff. Doing that over Zoom is really hard, which we discovered. So luckily some of the quarantine stuff was lifted over here, so we were able to get into a room with each other recently. So we've kind of got new stuff. Can't give you any more information than that, but we're going to record it, and I doubt very much that we're going to sit on it for a long time.
Awesome. That sounds great. I mean, we're not bored with Ultra Mono just yet.
Yeah,
But
well, it's weird. Like we can't like. It's such a strange experience to release an album and not like, especially from a musician side of things, not live with it in the live kind of arena. Like those songs change completely whenever you play them live. Like a song like Mother from Brutalism has had so many different iterations because of where it sits in a set and the songs that it lives with and the different fans that you get. Like it means something different to, people in Denver than it does to people in Japan or the people in Australia. And so it's really nice to kind of see how those songs live with other people, and we haven't been able to experience that. So it's really weird. It almost feels like Ultramono hasn't come out. So yeah, it's just weird. It's the only way to describe it.
yeah, I think that touring, hopefully next year, it'll be an interesting walk back into live music for musicians and for fans, because we're going to be celebrating like all of the stuff that we've been sitting with by ourselves in our house. But it'll be nice to get back, and it'll be great when you guys can come back to Denver. Mark Bowen of IDLES is my guest today. The new album is Ultra Mono. It's out now. Mark, thank you so much for talking with me today.
My pleasure.